Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. For those who are new here, my name is Nikki. I'm an author and editor and I post videos here on YouTube about writing, editing, reading and all the other things I love. Today you're here for Ask an Editor and our topic for the day is repetition. So I'm just going to mention very quickly three tips on how to look out for repetition as you self-edit your manuscript. And we're going to be covering repetition of words, repetition of structure and repetition of information. So starting off, repetition of words. In many ways this is often the easiest one to spot once you've got your mind around the concept of it. You're going to look out for words that you use often. Ones that you should always check for are things like really, just, and all those little filler words that creep into the manuscript that are really unnecessary for the meaning of the sentence. And the quickest way to do this, if you're using a program like Word, is to do a find and highlight so you can see how often they're appearing in the manuscript. And as you see them, just say, is it necessary for understanding the sentence? Is it adding any meaning? If it's not, you can usually take it out. If it is adding meaning and you just see a few of them still close together, you might want to consider changing something for a synonym. That's okay with filler words because you can find lists of filler words and just search for them. However, the other one to be aware of is that all writers have their own personal little quirks. One of my favourite words to use is however. And I have to bear that in mind as I'm editing my work and checking it and try to make sure I'm not overusing it. And you'll all find that you have these words that you just use all the time. You love them, you don't really think about it, but if you come to get to know them, do a search for them and you might be surprised how many times they appear. The search and highlight is the best way because you can scan a page and just say, oh my goodness, I've used this word 6 times in a single page, and you know that it's clearly a repetitive, overused word for you. And ones that people often do in things like this are walked. And, you know, they often say he walked somewhere, he walked here, he walked there. But bear in mind that there are so many different words you can use instead of walked, and they all have a very different feel that's going to really spruce up, I guess, the prose in your piece. Take, for example, ambled. Ambled suggests he's relaxed, carefree, he's moving at a good pace. Marched has a more military, purposeful sense about it. Dashed suggests there's some sort of urgency or hurry. So bear that in mind. Walked is a very popular one. And another one is said. If you're one of these people who tends to overuse dialogue tags, he said, she said, she said, and that kind of thing. So once you get to know the words that you use, like I know for me it's however, and I know I need to check for that, make sure you do that when you go through your manuscript before you submit it or send it to be published if you're self-publishing. The next one to consider is repetition of structure. What I mean by this is, do all your paragraphs begin with he plus verb? He went somewhere, paragraph continues. He took out something, next paragraph. He did this, third paragraph. You don't want all your paragraphs to begin in the same manner because again that begins to feel repetitive over time. And the same is true within a paragraph. If all your sentences begin with he within a paragraph, you want to mix it up a bit, have some sentences begin with the, it, something else. However, but not too often in my case. So that's something else to look out for, and it's a little bit harder to search for that, but it's just something that as you're reading through your book you want to bear in mind as you're looking at the paragraphs. And finally, the last part is repetition of content. And what I mean by this is giving readers information they've already had. Occasionally you can do this in very small measure if you feel it's something the audience needs to be reminded of that perhaps was mentioned very early in the book and it's now towards the end and they may have forgotten. But what you don't want to do is keep giving them the same scene over again. I mean, I've seen it a few times in books where people have got dual POV and they'll do a scene in the first POV, but then the next chapter will be the same scene in the other person's POV, which, okay, yes, we're getting their views on it that we didn't get before, but essentially we're seeing the same scene twice. And as a reader, that gets pretty boring pretty quickly if it keeps happening. So you need to find a way to relate what that person was thinking if it's important, but without completely rehashing the scene. And it might not be a whole scene, it might even just be information, like perhaps they've discovered some facts about an alien race in a sci-fi story. Once you've given these facts once, don't have the characters keep repeating it. So assume in one chapter a character's read something and discovered something really important, but then in the next chapter they go and tell one of their friends, and in the next chapter they tell someone else. We don't need it that often as readers. Once is enough, maybe twice if it's a really important point you think needs reiterating, but you can just say that they told the other person and caught them up with things. You don't need to repeat that information that they gave them. So those are 3 very quick little tips on checking for repetition in your manuscript as you self-edit. If you have any questions, pop them below in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them for you. But otherwise I will end there for now and see you all again very soon with another vlog. Bye for now everyone.